Hey everybody, this is Jeff Murrin. Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion of the Iliad by Homer, specifically the Robert Fagel's translation of the text. And in this particular video, we are going to be looking at book 15 specifically. Now, if you remember the last time when we were looking at book 14, what we had was the scenes from the war. Then we had the sex scene between Hera and Zeus, and then after that, we went back to the war, okay? And if you remember, Hera took sleep with her to make sure that after she and Zeus slept together, that he would fall into a deep slumber, all right? And this would give the Trojans more time to regroup and to fight back against the incoming warriors, the Trojans, all right? And so what we have here at the very beginning, I'm just gonna kind of give you a rundown of the things that go on in book 15. We see that Zeus wakes up, and he wakes up and he is mad, all right? He is mad because he's been duped by Hera, and this is the way that Hera and he always, you know, they don't get along, all right? And they haven't for a long time, and you'll see some of that. And Hera's just like, who, me? Oh, I don't know what you mean, okay? And then we will see actually that Zeus does predict the end of the war, how it's going to play out, and sends Hera goes back to Mount Olympus to get Iris to do some things, deliver some messages for him, and we see that Iris does deliver a message to Poseidon, tells Poseidon to take a hike, and we see Poseidon's response to that. He's got something that I think is very interesting in the way that he responds to and sees himself in regards to Zeus, and so that adds an interesting dynamic, I think, to their relationship. We see Zeus go to Apollo, and to me, it seems that he grants Apollo certain things that he does not grant, or specifically keeps away from other gods. And we have the triumphant return of Hector. Remember last time, Ajax just knocked him out, essentially with a giant boulder, left him puking by the river Xanthus, all right? And so now he's gonna come back, and everybody's gonna be like, oh my God, it's like he's raised from the dead, all right? Also, let's see, we're going to see just back and forth of fighting between Trojans and Greeks, kind of focusing on one, then focusing on the other. Nestor is going to offer a prayer up to Zeus, and Patroclus is going to say, okay, like, look, I need to talk to my buddy Achilles and get him in on this. And then you can just sort of see like battle cries from like up from the Greeks, and then back from the Trojans, and then the Greeks again, and then the Trojans, just sort of making these cries to try to say, come on, let's do this, let's finish this job, all right? So I'm gonna go into the text, I'm gonna read some of these things and give you a little bit to think about in regards to them, but we're gonna begin, well, I'd say about the 5th line down from the very beginning of the book, all right? It says, that moment Zeus awoke on the heights of Ida, stretched out by Hera, queen of the golden throne. He leapt to his feet. He saw the Trojans and Achaeans, one sight routed, the other harrying them in panic. Achaeans attacking, and god Poseidon led the way. And Zeus saw Hector sprawled on the battlefield, his comrades kneeling around him as he panted, struggling hard for breath, his senses stunned, vomiting blood. The man who'd struck him down was not the weakest Argive. All right. Going on to page 388, about a couple lines in, it says, this is Zeus speaking to Hera. It says, what a disaster you create, uncontrollable Hera. You and your treachery, halting Hector's assault and routing Hector's armies. I wouldn't be surprised, my queen, if you were the first to reap the pernicious whirlwind you have sown. I'll whip you stroke on stroke. And you'll see some old grievances here. About line 40, it says, you'll give up your treacheries. You will see, if your warm embraces serve you then, your bed of lust where you sank me in your arms, down from the gods you came to waylay me, you seduced me blind, okay? So this idea, you know, that Zeus, we've been talking about, you know, the gods, typically how we can think of a god as being an infallible god, an omnipotent all-powerful and omniscient, all-knowing and omnipresent, everywhere at once God. Well, we can see that Zeus truly does have a weakness, and Hera knew that, and he's like, oh, you tricked me with the thing you knew I would be tricked with, and that's sex, all right? And then we see Hera immediately following that, her eyes wide. Queen Hera shuddered before his thunder, like, oh my goodness, all right? And, she says, Earth, be my witness now, the vaulting sky above, and the dark cascading waters of the Styx, I swear, by the grimmest oath that binds the happy gods, by your sacred head, by the bed of our own marriage, that I, at least, would never take in vain. Never by will of mine did the good earthquakes wreak havoc among the Trojans' ranks in Hector, and surge to help their foes. It must be his own great rage that drives him on. Like, I didn't have anything to do with this. This is Poseidon's thing all on his own, right? He pitied the sight of the Argives pinned against the ships. Not I. Why, I'd be the first to counsel him to take your lead, Zeus, whenever you command, my king of the black cloud. All right, just laying it on thick here, because she's busted. All right. And then it goes down here that he's going to send her back to Ida. Iris, the messenger goddess, is going to then go and contact Poseidon and tell Poseidon to take a hike. All right, I'm about line 72. It says, Iris will fly to Achaea's bronze-armed troops and direct the god who strikes the earth, that's Poseidon, to stop, to quit the war and return to his ocean halls, and let Apollo drive Prince Hector back to battle, breathe power back in his lungs, make him forget the pains that rack his heart. It's interesting here because how many times has Zeus said, no other god can get involved here? All right, now go send Apollo to get involved. Anyway, let him whip the Achaeans in headlong panic rout and roll them back once more, tumbling back to the oar-swept ships of Peleus' son, Achilles. And he, listen to this, okay, this is very interesting because this is where we see Zeus's prediction of how this is all going to go. And he will launch his comrade Patroclus into action, and glorious Hector will cut him down with a spear. Okay, so we know that's going to happen in front of Troy. Once Patroclus has slaughtered whole battalions of strong young fighting men, and among them all, my shining son, Sarpedon. Okay, so pay attention to that. That will come to pass. But then, enraged for Patroclus, brilliant Achilles will bring Prince Hector down. And then from that day on, I'll turn the tide of war. Back the fighting goes, no stopping it ever, all the way. Skipping a couple lines there to line 90. But till that hour, I will never cease my anger, nor will I permit a single immortal god to save the Argive forces, not till Achilles' prayer has been fulfilled. Remember the prayer that he sent earlier saying that, I do not want the Greeks to win here. All right. And so Hera then goes back to Olympus. We'll see on, let's say, line 107, but she passed the rest and took a cup from Themis, flushed with beauty, who ran to meet her first and hailed her now with winged words of welcome. Hera, what brings you back? You look so harried. Oh, I know it. The son of Cronus has terrified you, your everlasting husband. Please, Themis, the white-armed goddess Hera answered firmly, don't ask me to go through that ordeal again. You know his rage yourself, so rigid, unrelenting, but you keep on presiding over the gods, Themis, the feasting in the halls. You'll hear it all, and with you, all the immortals. What a chain of disasters Zeus brings to light. Nothing to lift all spirits alike. I warn you, not among men, not among gods, if one's still left who warms to feast his heart at peace these days. All right? Disagrees wholeheartedly, completely with what Zeus is doing and thinks everything that Zeus is involved in as far as helping the Trojans is nothing short of an utter, total, complete disaster. All right? So now what we are going to do is we're going to look, it says here on the bottom of page 392, about line 192, it says, command Poseidon, this is Iris is going to have to do. Command Poseidon to quit the war and slaughter now and go back to the tribes of gods or down to the bright sea. But if he will not obey my orders, if he spurns them, let him beware heart and soul, for all his power he can never muster. He will to stand my onslaught. All right. So it's just like it's a threat. Okay, Poseidon, you need to back off or else. All right. So when Poseidon gets this message, listen to his response about 219, line 219 of page 393. But the glorious God of earthquakes shook in anger. What outrage, great as he is, what overweening arrogance. So force me, will he, to wrench my will to his? I, with the same high honors. He's saying, I am equal to Zeus. I'm Poseidon, I'm equal to Zeus. He's no better than I am. Okay? 3 brothers we are all sprung from Cronus. All of us brought to birth by Rhea, Zeus, and I, Hades the third, Lord of the dead beneath the earth. The world was split 3 ways. Each received his realm. Okay, we all got our own place to do what it is that we do. He's not somebody who is above me. All right, Hades, me, and Zeus, we're all the same. All right. When we shook the lots, I drew the sea, my foaming eternal home, and Hades drew the land of the dead engulfed in haze and night, and Zeus drew the heavens, all right? The clouds and the sky, and the high clear sky. But the earth and Olympus heights are common to us all, okay? Those we share equal footing. Like we've got our own places, but there are certain spaces where we have equal footing, okay? So I will never live at the beck and call of Zeus, no. At his loyal ease and powerful as he is, let him rest content with his third of the world. Don't let him try to frighten me with his mighty hands. What does he take me for, some coward out and out? He'd better aim his terrible salvos at his own, all his sons and daughters. He's their father. They have to obey his orders. It's their fate. All right? But he does say, you know, in the like lines 250, but I will yield. I will yield. It makes me mad, but I will yield. All right. So then we see Zeus going to Apollo down at the bottom of page 394, about line 261, 223. He says, "Go, my friend, to the side of Hector, armed in bronze, the god of quakes, who grips and pounds the earth, has just this moment plunged into his own bright sea." So Poseidon took off, went to his realm of the waters, diving away from all my mounting anger. Just think what the gods would have heard if he had come to blows, even with those beneath the ground who circle Cronus, skipping about 3 lines. But now take up your hands, my storm cloud shield, its dark tassels flying, shake it over the Argives, stampede their heroes in panic, archer of the sky. But make this glorious Hector your main concern. Rouse his breakneck courage till racing in terror the Argives reach the fleet and the Hellespont in rout. All right. So what we're going to see is now that Apollo has been given this permission, or this actually command by Zeus, we are going to see this triumphant return of Hector. All right. I'm going to read 329. Okay, well, if you actually look up on 26, you'll see the image of a bearded lion. Okay, so that lion imagery motif is still continuing throughout all of this. Okay, just you know, whatever. 329. So up until now, the Achaeans kept advancing, close formation, stabbing away with swords and rugged 2-edged spears. But once they saw tall Hector attack the ranks again, they wheeled in terror. Hearts collapsed at their feet. You even see on line 340 on the next page, page 397, they say, he's risen from the dead. They took him for dead. That's how hard Ajax hit him with that rock, and he just lay there flat on, unable to pick himself up and participate anymore. They took him for dead, and now here he is again. They're like, oh no. All right. Skipping down a few lines, about, let's say, 345. He'd never be at the front smashing our lines unless old Thunder Zeus had put him on his feet. So they're looking at him back in battle, and they're thinking, oh, this guy obviously has Zeus on his side. There's no other explanation at all for him being able to be back standing in the battle, tall, ready to fight. Like, oh no. All right. Let's see. So 360, we'll see this back and forth between the Argives pushing at the Trojans pushing back at the Argives or Greeks. Okay, it says, but packed in a mass, the Trojans came on pounding, Hector leading the way with long leaping strides, and heading the van in person came the god Apollo. So Apollo's actually, with them, kind of pushing with the, they're kind of behind him. Shoulders wrapped in a cloud, gripping the storm shield, the tempest terror, dazzling tassels flaring along its front. The bronze-smith god of fire gave it to Zeus to bear and strike fear in men. And Apollo gripped it now, locked in his two fists as he led the Trojans on. But packed in a mass, the Argives stood their ground. Deafening cries of battle breaking from both sides as whipping arrows leapt away from bowsprings. Showers of spears raining from daring, hardy arms went deep into the soldiers' bodies, quick to fight. But showers of others cut short halfway before they could graze glistening skin, stuck in the ground, still lusting to sink in flesh. That's a nice personification there. The arrows were lusting after the flesh. All right. Long as Apollo held the storm shield in his grasp, the weapons hurtled side to side, and men kept falling. But once he looked at the fast Achaean drivers square in the eyes, shook the shield, and loosed an enormous battle cry himself, Apollo stunned the high courage in their chests. They lost their grip, forgot their fighting fury, routed like herds of cattle or big flocks of sheep when two wild beasts stampede them away in terror, suddenly pouncing down in their midst, pitching darkness. The shepherd off and gone. So the defenseless Argives panicked, routed. Apollo hurled fear in their hearts and handed Hector and all the Trojans instant glory. All right, so here's the idea. What we have here, what we are seeing is that confirmation, this is a Greek story. Homer is a Greek. Homer is writing this, and he is acknowledging that it is just the fact that Zeus is there with them, and that's why Hector's back up. Apollo is the one who's pushing the Trojans on, so therefore they're going to have, that's why they're being so successful. It's not because the Trojans are better warriors just on their own. It's because those gods are the ones who are pushing them. That's the way that they're interpreting this, all right? We see Nestor's prayer at the bottom of page 399, where he cries out the last line on page 399, Father Zeus, if ever in Argos golden wheatlands one of us burned the fat thighs of sheep or bulls and begged a safe return, and you promised with a nod, remember it now, Olympian, save us from this ruthless day. Don't let those Trojans mow us down in droves. Okay, so it's almost like that last ditch effort, just praying out to Zeus. Do not let us fall to these Trojans. All right. So Patroclus, remember, he's the buddy who's been hanging out with Achilles. He is taking care of Eurypylus, all right? And he sees what's going on, and he realizes, I gotta do something here. And we'll see about line 468. He says, I can't stay here with you any longer, Eurypylus, much as you need me here. There a great battle breaks. No, let an aid attend to you while I rush back to Achilles. Spur him into combat. Who knows, with the gods' help, I might just rouse him now. Bring his fighting spirit round at last. The persuasion of a comrade has its powers. Okay, skipping a few lines, it says, the Argives blocked the Trojans' assault, but they still could not repel them from the fleet, outnumbering them as they did. Nor could the Trojans break through the Argives' bulking forward mass and force their passage through the ships and shelters. So Patroclus has this moment where he's seeing what's going on. He's like, we have got to get Achilles in here. If we can get Achilles in here, then we are going to be able to have some success, or at least we're not going to just be leveled totally here. We see here with Patroclus saying, look, I see what's going on. I need to get Achilles involved. If we can get Achilles involved, we will have a fighting chance. But right now, they've got Apollo coming after them, coming with them to defeat us. We've got to get reinforcements. And maybe if I, his buddy, can tell him, then there will be he'll listen to reason, so to speak. All right. And then it is interesting at the top of page 401, where it talks about how neither side was giving an inch. That may be a way that we can look at, yes, the Greeks were better fighters, because here come the Trojans with Apollo leading the way, but they're still not taking over the Greeks. They are still just, there's a stalemate between them. All right. We see also Teucer here sort of mentioning the same type of thing about line 535 on page 402. But Teucer, quick with his next shaft, the archer aimed at Hector's brazen crest. And he would have stopped his assault on Argive ships, hit him squarely, and torn his life out just as his courage peaked. But he could not dodge the lightning mind of Zeus standing guard over Hector. Zeus tore the glory right from Teucer's grasp. He snapped the twisted cord on his handsome bow, just as the archer drew it taut against his man, and he weighted the bronze shaft, skittered off to the side. The bow dropped from his hand, and Teucer shuddered, calling to his brother, "Oh, what luck! Look, some power cuts us out of the fighting, foils our plans." So it's Teucer's just like, "Oh, look, see, they've got the gods." And the poet here, Homer, mentions that it's Zeus who's doing this, but even Teucer's like, "Look, I can't do anything. They have some supernatural power helping them out." All right, we've got on page 404, Ajax. At the very top says, "But Ajax fired the troops on his side too. Shame, you Argives, all or nothing now. Die or live and drive defeat from the ships. You want this flashing Hector to take the fleet? Then each man walk the waves to regain his native land." Okay, like if they take us out and they burn our ships, we're stuck here. There's no way for us to get back. Can't you hear him calling his armies on full force? This Hector, wild to gut our hulls with fire? He's not inviting them to a dance, believe me. He commands them to battle. No better tactics now than to fight them hand to hand with all our fury. Quick, better to live or die once and for all than die by inches, slowly crushed to death, helpless against the hull and bloody pressed by inferior men. Like, let's get after, let's go. A slow, painful death like this is worse. Like, let's just have at it. All right. We will also see here, page 409, again, Ajax. Page 409 is Nestor. Nestor about line 769. "Be men, my friends, discipline fill your hearts. Maintain your pride in the eyes of other men. Remember each of you sons, wives, wealth, parents. Our mother and father, dead or alive, no matter, I beg you, for their sakes, loved ones far away, now stand and fight, no turning back, no panic." We see on 410, Hector then responding, not necessarily responding to Nestor, but responding in the fact that he is yelling and rallying his troops, the Trojans, against the Greeks. About line 830, let's say 832. "Bring fire," up the war cries all together. "Now Zeus hands us a day worth all the rest. Today we seize these ships. They stormed ashore against the will of the gods. They came here frightened with years of pain for us, and all thanks to our city elders. What cowards! Whenever I longed to fight at the ship's high sterns, the old man kept me back. They held the troops in check. Oh, but if Zeus's lightning blinded us in those days, it's Zeus who drives us, hurls us on today." Down to the last thing I'm going to read is line 851. "Friends, fighting Dardanelles, aids in arms of Ares, fight like men, my comrades. Call upon your battle fury. You think we have reserves in the rear to back us up? Some stronger wall to shield our men from disaster? No, there's no great citadel standing near with towers where we could defend ourselves and troops could turn and hide. No, we are here on the plains of Troy, all Troy's arms dug in, backs to the sea, land of our fathers away. Fight, the light of safety lies in our fighting hands, not spines gone soft in battle." That's Ajax speaking there as sort of a response to what Hector has said. And what Ajax is saying is like, look, we've got to fight. We've got nothing but the sea behind us. They take us, they take our ships. We're done. We're sitting ducks here. Okay, so we have to fight Nestor said the exact same thing. Okay, so they are pretty much at their wits' end here at the shore, and we've got Apollo pushing the Trojans closer and closer. It's almost like, let's just go for broke, boys, because what do we got to lose? All right, so that's the end of book 15 here, and I want you to go ahead and read 16 on your own, annotate and have some thoughts, and then come join me back here and I'll give you some of mine. All right, so until then, and as always, happy reading.